My ex-wife and her boyfriend laughed at me as our divorce was finalized. Then the judge revealed a final surprise that left them in tears. I, 32M, want to share one of the wildest experiences of my life, my divorce. Let me just say, it was more drama than I ever bargained for. I met my ex-wife about 7 years ago. We dated for around 2 years before finally tying the knot. At the time, I was convinced we had something amazing, and I was all in. I've been working in real estate sales for a while, nothing fancy, but decent enough to cover my bills and let me have a few treats now and then. Meanwhile, she worked part-time at a local boutique before we got married, but after the wedding, she pretty much decided to take a long break and find herself. I try to be supportive because I assumed she'd eventually figure out what she really wanted to do with her life. At first, I didn't see any huge red flags. We moved into a small house that I bought with my own money before the wedding. My father co-signed the loan just to help me get a better interest rate, but all the monthly payments came straight out of my pocket. My father and mother both liked my ex-wife early on. She'd hang out with my mother, chat about clothes or local gossip, and she'd discuss sports with my father during the big games. She seemed outgoing and friendly. My sister, who's a couple years younger than me, was a bit more cautious. She told me once that my ex-wife seemed too focused on what she could get out of the relationship, but I shrugged it off because I loved her and thought we'd be a solid team. Months passed, and things started to shift. She began going out late at night, claiming she needed space, or was with some friends I'd never even heard of. She'd come back in the early morning hours and act like I was the one being dramatic for asking simple questions. I tried to give her room, thinking maybe she was stressed from not working and feeling stuck at home. But my gut kept telling me something else was going on. My sister also noticed the change in her attitude. She said that whenever my ex-wife visited, she seemed distant, like her mind was somewhere else. One night, my ex-wife came home at 2 a.m. I was waiting up in the living room, worried sick. The second she walked in, she looked surprised that I was awake. I asked her where she'd been, and she got all defensive, yelling about how I was controlling and paranoid. She stormed into our bedroom, slammed the door, and left me sitting alone, feeling confused as hell. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She didn't apologize or explain. She just moved on as if I was supposed to forget about it. Eventually, the suspicion got to me. One day, I saw her phone lying on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower, and I glanced at it. I know some people say never snoop on your partner's phone, but given how things were, I couldn't help it. And there it was, messages that made it very clear she was talking to some other guy in a way that went way beyond friendship. Let's just say the texts were graphic enough to kill off any lingering doubt I had. My heart sank. When I confronted her, she blew up, flipping the script to make it seem like I was the problem for invading her privacy. But deep down, I knew our relationship was basically done. We had an insane fight that night. She accused me of never supporting her dreams, which was ridiculous because she never even told me what her dreams actually were. She said she felt smothered, even though I basically let her do whatever she wanted. I told her she was betraying me, and she didn't bother denying it. She left the house in a fury. I remember sitting at the dining table, staring at the walls, thinking how quickly everything had gone from bliss to chaos. The next few weeks were tense. She would stay out more often, sometimes not returning until the morning. We barely spoke. My father noticed I was in a foul mood and invited me over for dinner without her. That night, my mother, father, and sister all rallied around me, saying I deserved better and that I shouldn't let her walk all over me. They told me I might need to prepare for the possibility that our marriage was beyond repair. It hurt, but I knew they were right. A short time later, I discovered she'd actually moved in with this guy she'd been texting. I came home early one afternoon, hoping we could try to have a civil discussion, only to find her packing up some clothes while on the phone with someone, telling them to make space for her in a closet. I could feel my blood boiling, but oddly enough, I also felt a wave of relief, like at least I knew the truth now. I told her to take whatever she wanted and just go. She shot me this look that was a mix of pity and annoyance, and then she left. After that, the official divorce process started. It was a complete nightmare. She quickly hired a lawyer, so I hired one too. We had to follow the usual steps in my state. There was a waiting period plus mediation sessions to see if we could settle. But there was no way I would settle for the kind of bullshit she was demanding. She wanted half of everything. Half of my house, half of my savings, even half of my car's value. She was basically trying to bleed me dry. And her new boyfriend was right there with her at mediation, smirking as if they were about to cash a winning lottery ticket. My father and mother were furious, but they reminded me not to do anything rash. My sister was the one who was like, take the gloves off and burn them in court. I felt a mix of both approaches. Part of me wanted revenge, and part of me wanted to handle it with calm logic. My lawyer advised me to keep my emotions in check and just stick to the facts. So that's what I did. I gathered every receipt, every bank statement, every document showing I'd bought the house before the marriage. I made sure I had proof that she never contributed a dime to the mortgage or bills. She'd basically coasted on my income. The good news was, under U.S. law, assets you acquire before marriage can stay yours if you don't commingle them. And I had made sure to keep everything separate. My lawyer said we had a strong case. Still, every time we went to mediation, it was torture. She'd act all sweet and vulnerable in front of the mediator, claiming she had no idea what to do now and how she'd given up her career to be with me. Funny how she forgot she quit on her own and that she was basically living with another guy. Her boyfriend was even cockier, sometimes whispering remarks about how I'd soon be paying for their dream home. The arrogance was insane. Eventually, we reached the final stretch, a day in court where the judge would make the final decisions. Right before that, I got a message from her boyfriend on social media, taunting me that I'd be left with scraps. He even said something like, I can't believe you're such a sucker, man. Thanks for setting us up. I screenshotted that shit and gave it to my lawyer. But I didn't engage him. I just blocked him and moved on. I knew that losing my cool could hurt me in court, so I tried to stay chill. The night before the final hearing, I was a complete wreck. Couldn't sleep, pacing around my living room, thinking about all the possible outcomes. I had nightmares of losing my house and my savings, basically everything I worked for. My father offered to drive me to the courthouse the next morning, and I took him up on it because it felt good to have support. We got there, and I saw my ex-wife and her boyfriend in the hallway, giggling like they were about to watch a comedy show. My lawyer met me, gave me a firm handshake, and we walked in together. The judge was no nonsense, which I found comforting. My lawyer laid out our evidence, the timeline of my house purchase, the bank statements proving I funded everything before and during the marriage, and the messages where she admitted she didn't chip in. Her lawyer tried to spin this sob story of how she sacrificed her ambitions to focus on our home life, but it didn't really line up with reality. Then my lawyer dropped the text that showed she was already with a boyfriend before moving out. The judge asked my ex-wife some direct questions about when she started seeing this guy and whether she told me about wanting a divorce first. She stumbled over her answers. It was pretty clear she'd been lying about the whole timeline. I saw a noticeable change in the judge's face at that point. He flipped through some papers, took a moment, and then asked if I had anything else. My lawyer reiterated that, while I understood some minimal spousal support might be ordered because she was unemployed, it shouldn't be anywhere near half of my assets, especially given the short marriage and her lack of financial contribution. The judge nodded and said he needed a quick recess to finalize his decision. We left the courtroom. My ex-wife and her boyfriend stood off to one side, whispering. I overheard him saying something like, "Don't worry, babe, we got this." That made me grit my teeth, but I held it together. After what felt like an hour but was probably just 15 minutes, we got called back in. My heart was pounding as the judge started talking. He went over the facts. Our marriage was short. I purchased the house before the wedding, and there was clear evidence she contributed little financially or domestically. Then he revealed his ruling. She would not get the 50% or more that she demanded. Instead, she'd receive a minimal settlement to help her get on her feet, plus a short-term spousal support that would end quickly, especially given that she was already cohabiting with her boyfriend. The judge basically said she had another form of financial support, so she wasn't entirely helpless. The look on their faces was priceless. My ex-wife's jaw practically hit the floor, and her boyfriend suddenly lost that smug grin. She tried to protest, and her lawyer asked if the judge would reconsider, but the judge was like, "No, this is final." My lawyer gave me this tiny smile, and I felt relief flood my entire body. I could finally breathe. For once, justice went my way. When the session ended, we all stood up. My ex-wife darted over to me, muttering about how I wouldn't get away with this. I just told her the judge made the decision based on the evidence, and she needed to accept it. Her boyfriend looked like he wanted to start a fight, but my father stepped up. The boyfriend called me a loser under his breath, and I just said, "You're the one who lost today. Deal with it." He turned red and stormed off with her. Outside the courtroom, my father gave me a hug. My mother and sister were at home, waiting for the news. My lawyer shook my hand and said this was one of those cases where everything lines up in favor of the person who was actually honest. We left the courthouse, and my father joked about grabbing a drink. You bet I took him up on it. On the ride back, I called my mother and sister, and they were thrilled. My sister was screaming about how awesome it felt to see those two get put in their place. I had so much adrenaline pumping through me, like I just won a championship game or something. A few days later, I heard from mutual acquaintances that my ex-wife was livid and convinced the judge was biased. Her boyfriend was apparently whining about how unfair the system was. The same system he thought was going to hand them my money on a silver platter. They had even been telling people they planned on investing a huge amount once the divorce was finalized. Talk about counting your chickens before they hatch. Now they were stuck with pretty much nothing. I won't lie, it felt good to see them both face the consequences of their entitlement. They thought they'd toyed with me and that the court would just hand over everything I'd worked for. But nope, the law actually sided with the facts. People sometimes assume the ex-wife automatically gets a big payday in a divorce, but it doesn't always work that way, especially when she's the one who walked out and contributed next to nothing. In the aftermath, I made it a point to rebuild my life. I hung out with friends more, picked up guitar lessons, something I've been putting off for ages, and spent more time at the gym. My father and mother started inviting me over more frequently for dinner, which was comforting. My sister kept saying I should go on a vacation to clear my head. Maybe I will someday. For now, I'm just happy to be out of that toxic situation. Looking back, I wish I had seen the red flags sooner. But I guess sometimes you have to learn the hard way. I gave my ex-wife everything I could, but she wanted more. She wanted to control the whole narrative, take my assets, and rub her new relationship in my face. It was like I was dealing with a completely different person from the one I married. But after seeing her meltdown in court and the tears she fought back when the judge announced her bare minimum settlement, I realized I was finally free. The actual settlement I ended up paying was pretty small compared to what she had demanded. The judge gave it an expiration date, given how short the marriage was and because she was living with a boyfriend. She got a few months of support, basically the legal system's version of here's something so you can move on. As far as I'm concerned, it was a price I'd pay any day to get rid of that nightmare. I've heard through the grapevine that she and her boyfriend are having money problems now. They probably thought they'd be popping champagne with my hard-earned cash, but that door slammed shut in their faces. Let's just say I don't lose any sleep over it. They made their bed, and now they can lie in it. So yeah, that's how my divorce went from a complete shit show to one of the most satisfying moments of my life. My ex-wife and her boyfriend actually laughed at me in front of the judge, fully convinced they were about to score a windfall. But the judge took one look at the facts and made a final call that left them both speechless. Moral of the story, keep good records, stand up for yourself, and don't let entitled people run you over. Sometimes, life gives you the sweet payoff you deserve. And honestly, watching their faces when they realized they were only getting the bare minimum, that alone was worth everything I went through. All in all, I'm doing all right now. I've got my house, my savings, and a clean slate. Sure, I have a few scars from the experience, but I'd rather have those scars than be trapped in that train wreck of a marriage for another second. My father still teases me that I dodged a bullet, and my mother says she's never been prouder that I stood my ground. My sister cracks jokes about me writing a book someday. Maybe I will. But for now, I just wanted to share this story here, hoping it might help someone else realize that you don't have to roll over for people who think they can take you for a ride. If you're in a similar position, hang in there. Gather your proof, trust the process, and remember that sometimes the best revenge is just watching your ex and their new partner realize they're not walking away with the jackpot they thought they had in the bag. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for reading if you made it this far. It's been a roller coaster, but I'm finally off the ride, and life is a hell of a lot better on solid ground.
My fiancé confessed over a candlelit dinner, "I'm only marrying you for your family status and to erase my mountain of secret debt." I replied, "Honest." Then I excused myself, called my lawyer to immediately freeze all assets and draft an annulment, returned to the table, toasted to truth, and walked out forever. Now her creditors are now frantically calling her. A 32 male and well, reeling doesn't quite cover it, but I'm also weirdly focused. It's like my brain has triaged the emotional devastation to deal with later. Last night, it was supposed to be a nice, quiet pre-wedding dinner with my fiancée Amanda, 29. 3 years together, engaged for 1. Wedding plans were hitting that final stressful stretch. Amanda was enjoying the Prosecco. A lot. I was on water. By the time the entrees arrived, she was very loose, very giggly. Then she grabbed my hand, eyes shining a little too brightly. Amanda. Oh, Andrew. You're just so good to me. So solid. I try to be. You okay, babe? Amanda leaned in, voice a loud whisper. Better than okay. It's almost over. The stress, all of it. Wedding stress, you mean? Yeah, it's a lot. Shook her head, almost knocking over her glass. No, not just that. The other stress, the money stuff, those awful calls, the letters, it'll just stop. It's like tens of thousands, Andrew. Maybe even more. It's this huge weight. She gestured vaguely. But marrying you, your family, the name, it makes it manageable, you know? People will be more lenient, and we can just clear it up together. The air in my lungs turned to ice. Money stuff? What money stuff, Amanda? What are you talking about? Lenient. Her smile faltered a bit. Just some old debts, silly stuff. Credit cards from when I was younger, a few loans to tide me over. It's not a big deal once we're married. It's practically our debt then, right? And with your families, stability, it's a fresh start for me. For us. She tried a bright smile, but it didn't reach her eyes, which were darting around a bit now. My fork clattered onto my plate. You're marrying me? Because you have massive secret debts? And you think my family's name is going to, what? Make them disappear? The shift in my tone, the coldness, must have cut through the alcoholic haze. Panic started to bloom on her face. Amanda. No, not just for that, Andrew. I love you. It's just a huge bonus, a lifeline. It's been so hard, you don't understand. My stomach churned. 3 years. The woman I was about to marry. A cold, hard clarity began to pierce through the shock. This wasn't just about love, it was a financial strategy. Me, voice flat, barely a whisper. Honest. That's unexpectedly honest. I pushed my chair back. Excuse me. I walked to the foyer, hands shaking. I didn't call everyone then. My mind was racing, but I knew I needed a clear head. I sent one, very terse text to my lawyer, Stephen. Urgent. Call me first thing AM. Potential major issue with Amanda. Possible need to halt everything. Confidential. Then I went to the restroom, splashed water on my face. The man in the mirror looked like a stranger. Took a few deep breaths. Walked back. Amanda looked anxious, fiddling with her napkin. Amanda. Andrew, are you mad? I was just being honest, like you said. I picked up my water glass. My hand was surprisingly steady now. A different kind of calm had settled in. Me, to truth, Amanda. I met her eyes. And to you dealing with yours. Alone. I put enough cash on the table to more than cover our meal. Didn't say another word. Walked out. Ignored her shocked cry of my name. The drive home was a blur. Her things were everywhere in my apartment. It felt alien. I didn't sleep on the couch. I couldn't stay there. I drove to my office, let myself in, and crashed on the uncomfortable sofa in my actual office. Sent a message to my parents. Problem with Amanda. Big one. Wedding likely off. We'll call in AM. This morning, Stephen called at 8:01 AM. I laid out the gist. He was quiet for a moment, then said, Okay, Andrew. First, deep breath. Second, document everything you remember, every word. We'll talk specific strategy later today, but yes, if this is as you say, we need to act decisively to protect your assets. Annulment is a strong possibility if there was material misrepresentation, like hiding significant debt with intent. He didn't promise miracles, just methodical steps. Next, I called my parents. They were horrified, then angry, then full-on supportive. Dad, a businessman, immediately understood the asset protection angle. Then, I called Kenneth, the building manager. Explained a highly sensitive personal situation required an immediate lock change on my unit, emphasizing my fiancé was not on the lease and would no longer be residing there. He was initially a bit hesitant about the speed, but I stressed the urgency and my long-standing tenancy. He agreed to get it done by early afternoon. The mountain of debt. The lifeline, my God. I'm still processing the betrayal, but the anger is a cold, hard thing now. It's fueling a very deliberate sort of calm. Update 1, 1 week later. It's been a hellish week, but things are moving. Thanks for the comments. Good to know I'm not overreacting. The locks were changed by about 1 p.m. the day after D-Day. Kenneth, the building manager, was discreet, though he did give me a look like he'd seen a few things in his time. Amanda started calling me frantically about an hour after I left the restaurant that night. Then texting, dozens of them. "Where are you? What did you mean? Come back, we need to talk." I ignored them all. The next morning the text turned to, "Let me into the apartment, Andrew. My stuff is there." This is crazy. She must have gone to the apartment midday, because then came the furious calls and texts. "You changed the locks? Are you serious?" As per Stephen's detailed advice from our follow-up call, I sent one carefully worded email. He wanted a clear paper trail. "Amanda, following your disclosures at dinner on date, our engagement is terminated. All further communication, including regarding the retrieval of your personal belongings from my apartment, must be directed to my legal counsel, Stephen, lawyer's last name, at lawyer's phone email. He will be in touch with you or your representative. I will not be communicating with you directly." Blocked her number, her socials. Pure radio silence from my end. The retrieval. Stephen insisted on managing it. He stipulated she could come at a set time with one other person to collect items I would have already boxed and placed outside my apartment door. He also advised me to be far away. Kenneth agreed to be present in the hallway, just to ensure no damage or extended disturbances. Amanda showed up with her mother, Sandra, and her sister, Ashley, 3 of them already breaking the one other person rule. Kenneth later told me it was quite the scene. Sandra apparently was loud. "He can't just throw her out like this. After all, Amanda has invested in this relationship." "Invested what? My money?" Ashley was more venomous. "He's trying to ruin her life. This is unbelievably cruel." They apparently tried to push past the boxes, saying they needed to check her bathroom or look in the closets. Kenneth politely but firmly blocked them, stating the agreement was for these specific, pre-packed items only. They eventually left, practically dragging the boxes. A couple of days later, Stephen got a call. Not from Amanda, but from a Mr. Dodson, a lawyer she'd somehow retained. My guess is Sandra or Ashley fronted the retainer. Mr. Ed Dodson started with the usual bluster. Emotional distress, significant financial and personal damages due to the abrupt and unwarranted termination of the engagement, hinted at suing for wedding expenses. Stephen let him finish. Then, very calmly, he presented my sworn affidavit detailing Amanda's confession, including approximate quotes and the context of her intoxication. Noted all major wedding deposits were paid from my sole accounts and, while likely lost to me, were not her financial burden. Offered a simple, mutual agreement to dissolve the engagement, each party bearing their own costs, with a confidentiality clause about the reasons for the split, to allow Amanda to move forward without unnecessary public disclosure of her personal financial circumstances. Mr. Dodson was quieter after that. But then came the interesting part. Stephen received calls from 3 different collection agencies over the next 2 days. They weren't calling about me. They were calling for Amanda Bell, but had apparently been given my name or my family's business as a future financial guarantor or fiancé handling affairs prior to D-Day. One even mentioned a hefty loan application pending submission of marriage certificate, co-signed by Mr. Andrew, my last name. I nearly had a stroke when Stephen told me. I co-signed nothing, ever. When Stephen informed these creditors that I was not, and would not be, married to Amanda Bell, that I had no financial liability for her, and that any further attempts to associate my name with her debts would be met with legal action. He also stated, "Ms. Bell is now represented by Mr. Dodson at Dodson's firm. However, should your agency continue to contact Mr. My Last Name or his family, be assured that I will be your point of contact for all legal correspondence regarding harassment." He made sure they understood he was my lawyer, not a conduit to her. The calls to Stephen from creditors stopped after that. Stephen suspects Mr. Dodson got an earful from Amanda's creditors shortly thereafter. The sheer, calculated deceit. It's breathtaking. That loan application especially. Stephen is keeping that nugget in his back pocket. He mentioned that while forgery is hard to prove without the document, the attempt itself, if demonstrable, speaks volumes about intent. The mountain seems to be a whole range. One creditor let slip a figure around 85 Keller. Just one. There's less shock now, more a grim resolve. Update 2. 3 months later. It's been a long 3 months. The initial chaos has subsided, replaced by the grinding gears of consequence, mostly for Amanda. Mr. Dodson, Amanda's lawyer, folded faster than cheap tent. After Stephen made it clear we knew about the creditors and the highly questionable loan application where my name was used, and after those creditors likely started bombarding him, Dodson sent a curt letter. It basically said Amanda disputes the characterization of her statements, but agreed to a mutual dissolution of the engagement, each party to bear their own costs, and a standard non-disparagement clause. No mention of emotional distress or her paying for wedding costs. Stephen said it was the legal equivalent of tucking tail and running. The risk of her actual financial state and deceptive practices coming out in any contested legal action was too high. The creditors, armed with her lawyer's info and no longer able to sniff around me, presumably went after Amanda hard. I got one follow-up call from an investigator from that loan company about the co-signed application. I stated clearly I never signed it, authorized it, or even knew of it. He just said, "Thank you for your statement," and that was that. But Sandra and Ashley weren't done. Oh no. About 2 months ago, the whispers started. A few remote acquaintances started giving me the side eye. Then my aunt, who's active in local charity circles, called. She'd been at a luncheon where Sandra was holding court, weeping about how her poor, innocent Amanda was ruthlessly jilted by a cold-hearted monster, Andrew, who abandoned her on the eve of their wedding and shattered her dreams, leaving her devastated and financially vulnerable. Zero mention of the multi-tens of thousands in secret debt or the confession. Their smear campaign was clumsy but infuriating. It even got back to one of my major clients through a tangential social connection, causing a very awkward half-hour where I had to vaguely allude to a personal matter involving significant misrepresentation by a former partner, without airing all the dirty laundry. It was mortifying. That was the point where my cold, hard calm developed some very sharp edges. Stephen, once I told him about the client situation, agreed we needed to shut it down decisively. He sent a cease and desist letter to Sandra and Ashley directly, CC'd Mr. Dodson. It was brutal and factual. A detailed timeline of Amanda's confession and my subsequent actions. A list of the known creditors and the approximate total debt Amanda was carrying and had concealed. A reference to the loan application made using my name without authorization, noting the investigator's contact. Photocopies of some of Amanda's more desperate texts to me after I'd referred her to Stephen, showing she wasn't respecting boundaries. A very clear warning. Any further slanderous or defamatory remarks, and I would pursue full legal remedies, including seeking damages for harm to my personal and professional reputation. The letter noted that truth is an absolute defense, and we had plenty of it. Ashley apparently tried one last idiotic stunt. She called my office, got my direct line somehow, still figuring that one out, and started screaming at me about being a heartless bastard, how I'd ruined Amanda's life, how Amanda was now sick with stress and couldn't pay her bills. I recorded the call, single-party consent state, thankfully, said all communication goes through my lawyer, as you well know, and hung up. Sent the recording to Stephen. He just sighed and added it to the file. The fallout for Amanda has been significant, pieced together from a couple of loose-lipped mutual acquaintances who eventually figured out they'd been fed a sob story. That loan application situation didn't just disappear. While no charges were filed for forgery, likely too messy, costly for the lender to pursue fully, the lender did report the irregular application to credit bureaus. Combined with her existing defaults, her credit is apparently subatomic. She had to move back in with Sandra. The grand wedding, the step up in status, all gone. Instead, she's reportedly facing a barrage of creditor demands with no bailout in sight. Sandra and Ashley are apparently furious, not at Amanda for her deceit, but at me for not being a man and quietly handling her debts like a gentleman would have. The entitlement is a family trait, it seems. They genuinely thought I should have absorbed her financial irresponsibility as a cost of marriage. Last I heard, Amanda is working a couple of low-wage jobs, looks constantly stressed, and is apparently bewildered that her plan didn't work. There's no remorse, just resentment that I didn't play my assigned role in her financial rescue fantasy. The $15,000 in lost wedding deposits still stings a bit, not gonna lie. But it's a bargain compared to the alternative. My apartment is mine again. I've had a few sessions with a therapist to unpack the sheer audacity of the betrayal, which helped. It's not just about the money. It's the calculated deception from someone I loved and trusted. The truth she spoke that night was a poisoned gift. It hurt like hell, but it also set me free. She built her own prison of debt and deceit. I just refused to walk into it with her, and I made sure she couldn't drag my name down with hers. That's not Hollywood revenge. It's just the relentless, grinding consequence of her own choices, and that, finally, brings a measure of peace. My fiancée chose her ex over me a week before the wedding. I cried for one night. Then I sold the ring. 48 hours later, she was calling nonstop. I'm 32 male. Or, I was supposed to be a 32 getting married next Saturday. 7 days ago that changed. My fiancée, Kayla, 29, sat me down, a week before the wedding, tucks in the closet, and said she couldn't go through with it. Why? Still in love with her ex, Randy, 30. Yeah, Randy. The youthful mistake she swore was history. Apparently history knocked a month ago and they've been reconnecting. Felt like a rogue wave. 4 years together, lived together for 2. I picked a $12,000 ring, her dream diamond. Venue walkthrough done. Her dress paid for. My parents' non-refundable flights booked. Kayla cried, so sorry, didn't mean for this to happen. She realized she was settling. With me. Fun. I didn't yell, just stared. Asked if she was sure. She was. If Randy was waiting, he was. She actually said, he's been so supportive through this difficult realization. I bet. She packed a bag that night for her sisters. I spent it on the couch, hollowed out. Yes, I cried. Woke up, saw the wedding invite on the fridge. Something clicked. Cold, clear. Okay. Adapt. First, called my best man Lewis. Told him. Usual, she did what? Then my plan. Next, the ring. Took it to a reputable jeweler known for buying estate pieces. Got a quote. Not $12K. Resale is brutal. They offered $7,200. Took it. Cash. Banked it. Done. Done. This was 48 hours after she dropped the bomb. Started calling vendors, venue, florist, caterer, some sympathetic, some pointed to non-refundable clauses. Understandable. Ripping off the Band-Aid. Then this morning, my phone blew up. Kayla, calls, voicemails, texts. Logan, we need to talk. Logan, call me back, it's urgent. Logan, where's the ring? My mom asked. Yeah, that's where we are. She's keen to chat. Haven't picked up yet. Part of me numb. Another part surprisingly methodical. Update 1, wow. The response was a lot. Thanks for the support and the DMs with strong opinions about her. Cathartic, not gonna lie. So, Kayla, calls didn't stop. After the 15th I picked up, kept my voice even. Me, hello, Kayla. Logan, finally. Why haven't you been answering? Me, busy. What's urgent? Mom was asking about the ring, insurance or whatever. And I was thinking, since the wedding isn't happening, I should probably give it back to you, or we can figure out what to do with it. The nerve. Me, no ring to figure out. Kayla, what do you mean? The engagement ring. Sold it. About 3 days ago now, Kayla. Silence. Then, you sold it? Without talking to me? Something to discuss? You ended the engagement, my property, my purchase. I dealt with it. But it was our ring. It symbolized our relationship. Which you terminated. Symbolism's moot now, wouldn't you say? Tears started. Classic Kayla. Kayla. But that was expensive, Logan. What did you get? You should have told me. Maybe I could have sold it, or kept it, for sentimental reasons. Sentimental reasons for the relationship she torpedoed? I think not. Me. Fair price. Money's in my bank. Partial reimbursement for non-refundable wedding deposits. What? You can't just do that. That money, some should be mine. We picked it out together. You picked it out. I paid. You walked away from the commitment. End of story. She went on about how unfair I was, how Randy thinks I'm vindictive. Oh, Randy has opinions? Good to know. She even said this isn't the man I thought you were. Lady, you blew up our life for a dude you called a mistake. You don't get to lecture me. The entitlement is breathtaking. She genuinely thought she'd call off the wedding. And I'd... what? Keep the ring safe for her? Hand over the cash so she and Randy could put a down payment on a love nest? Told her I was handling vendor cancellations, would send an itemized list of any shared costs or her specific things, like her dress alterations if the shop charges, she'd need to cover. Kayla. Shared costs? You booked most of it. Me, yes, for our wedding, the wedding you canceled. You don't detonate a bomb and walk away consequence-free. She hung up. Predictable. Text started. I can't believe you did this. So unfair. One gem. Randy is disgusted by your behavior. He said he'd never treat a woman like that. Almost replied. Does he know you were engaged to me 5 minutes ago? Didn't. Gray rock. Practically. Recouped about 30% of deposits. Venue. $8,000 loss. Caterer keeping $2,500. Florist. $800 or $1,500. Honeymoon. $6,000 package. Non-refundable. Guess who's going solo to a tropical paradise? This guy. Or with Lewis. Ring money. $7,200. Covered some losses, but still out of pocket. More to come, I'm sure. Her parents haven't chimed in. Next level of fun. TLDR. Kayla appalled. I sold the ring. Won't give her money. Thinks I'm unfair for expecting her to face financial consequences. Randy, PhD in relationship ethics, agrees. Update 2. 1 week since D-Day, dump day. Full week since Kayla dropped the nuke. Dust swirling, now with parental units. Mrs. Albright, Kayla's mom Judith, called yesterday. Saccharine venom. Judith, Logan, dear, so surprised Kayla said you'd sold the beautiful ring. Mrs. Albright, Kayla ended the engagement. Ring was mine to sell. Well, yes, but a symbol of love you shared. Kayla's upset, feels you were spiteful. I did it to mitigate significant financial losses. Spite wasn't the primary financial driver. Okay, maybe a tiny bit. Then the kicker. Logan, Russell, Mr. Albright and I are out money too. My dress, alterations, Russell's suit, rehearsal dinner deposit, $1,500. Me frustrating. I've also lost substantial amounts. Yes, well, since you've recouped from the ring, and this was sudden, Russell and I hoped you'd help us. After all, you were left. Traditional for groom's side to handle these things, avoid embarrassment for her family. Almost laughed. Traditional? Is it traditional for the bride to jump to an ex a week out and expect the jilted groom to pay for her parents' party outfits? Me, Mrs. Albright, Kayla made the decision. Financial fallout is hers. I am not responsible. I covered my losses. That's it. But Logan, we thought of you as a son. So mercenary. Kayla is devastated. Randy has been a rock. Agrees this is no way to treat people who were almost family. Randy, moral arbiter again. Me, my attitude reflects reality. Kayla is an adult who made a decision. She and her new partner can handle consequences. Won't discuss this further. Ended call. She was sputtering about disappointment. Evening. Email from Kayla. Subject, we need to be fair. Logan, mom told me. So incredibly hurt. Not just money, respect. Selling ring without discussion. Slap in face. Refusing to help mom and dad. They spent for our wedding. Randy said if roles reversed, he'd feel moral obligation. He's trying to be bigger person. Maybe you should. Itemized costs. Mom's dress alterations, $750. Dad's suit, $500. Rehearsal dinner deposit, $1,500. My wedding dress preservation kit, $200. Bridesmaid gifts, my half, $200 total, $2,950. Fair, you cover this. You got $7,200 for ring bought for me. So money joint. Deduct $2,950 from $7,200, send me balance $4,250. Or pay $2,950 to mom and dad, keep rest as damages though I'm emotionally traumatized. Kayla. Audacity. Emotionally traumatized? She's traumatized? Randy, saintly sage, offering opinions while with my ex-fiancé. Didn't reply directly. Compiled my list. Venue cancellation, my deposit lost $8,000. Caterer deposit lost $2,500. Florist deposit lost $800. Photographer deposit, my suit, custom, $900. Groomsmen gifts, $350. Kayla's dress deposit paid by me, $1,000. Our honeymoon share, my half I'm eating, $3,000 total I'm out before ring sale, $18,050. Sent simple reply. Kayla, my financial losses due to your decision currently stand at $10,850 after the $7,200 from the ring sale was applied. Will not cover your or your parents' expenses. Consider financial discussions closed, Logan. Radio silence. About 24 hours. Nice. Solo honeymoon looks appealing. Me, beach, cocktails. Dress shop called me, my number on form about final payment fitting. Informed them Kayla Albright is sole contact, provided her number. Tiny, cold satisfaction. Update 3, radio silence, lasted 12 hours. Then Randy texted. Randy, hey Logan, Kayla's torn up. Get your hurt, but scorched earth isn't cool. Good person, tough choice. Ruining her financially is low. This, from him. Me, Randy, financial arrangements are consequence of Kayla's decision not to ruin her. She canceled wedding with non-refundable costs. Facts. Yeah, but ring money? For her parents out cash, make this easier. Ring conditional on marriage not happening, proceeds offset my costs, her parents' expenses between them and Kayla. Non-productive conversation, don't contact me again. Wow, something else. Kayla deserves better. She made her choice. Apparently you're it. Good luck. Blocked. Done. Revenge? Not movie style. Just untangling myself. Letting natural consequences land. Vendors. Cancelled my end. 8 deposits. Some couple contracts. Photographer. Good guy. Kayla called him. She and Randy, thinking small commitment ceremony, wondered if he could just use the deposit for simpler package. Philip. Original contract voided. Deposit non-refundable. New booking needs new contract deposit. Day rebooked. Kayla threw fit, accused him of loyalty to me, unprofessional. Philip. Loyal to contracts and policies. Venue. Kept my $8. Kayla called, asked if, since she didn't cancel but I did, her words, could she get deposit back or apply to smaller room. Manager. She informed me wedding was off, deposit forfeit. Randy called separately, trying to negotiate. Venue should show compassion. Venue. Book and pay like new client. He did not. Dress. Shop called Kayla for final payment, $2,500. I'd paid $1,000 deposit on it. She was meant to pay the rest. She refused. Last I heard, via acquaintance, letter threatening collections. Not my circus. Honeymoon, $6,000 non-refundable package. Kayla texted new number. About honeymoon, least you can do is let me and Randy use it. Paid for, waste otherwise. Olive branch, so we all move on. An olive branch, gifting my cancelled honeymoon to her and lover? Gall. Replied, package in my name, non-transferable. Will enjoy it myself. Have a nice life, Kayla. Booked flight for Louis. His ticket extra, but thought of us sipping cocktails on our honeymoon beach while she deals with dress debts? Priceless. Social fallout. Haven't smeared. Word gets around. Wedding off week before, bride with ex. Mutual friends supportive. Her closer friends, she followed her heart. Me, her heart has expensive, inconvenient timing. The Albrights mortified. Not by Kayla but my ungenerous handling. Judith told acquaintance I've shown true colors. She's glad Kayla escaped. Escaped what? Responsibility. Got a letter. Solicitor looking. Debt collection agency. For bridal shop. Addressed to Kayla, old address. Sealed. Returned to sender. Addressee no longer at this address. Felt good. Kayla called last night. New number. Didn't pick up. Voicemail. Real crying. Logan, please. Nightmare. Dress shop. Ruined my credit. Mom and dad furious about rehearsal dinner. Randy supportive but stressed. Everyone looks to him to fix it. Says this is your fault for being vindictive, not cushioning blow. Can't you just help? Old times' sake? Old times when planning wedding with me while reconnecting with ex? No way. Deleted. Ring money gone, swallowed by deposits. I'm still out nearly 11 grand for the wedding itself, but it's manageable. Cost of lesson. Final update. Hey Reddit, last time on this. 6 months since D-Day. Life different. Better. Honeymoon with Lewis. Epic. Margaritas. Sunburn. Barely thought of Kayla. Dodged a bullet. Thoughts not woe is me. Empty seat on plane there. Weird but ancient history by landing. Kayla and Randy. Rocky. Finances. Bridal shop pursued debt. Kayla meltdown. Albrights refused bailout. Still salty. Randy not keen on dropping $2,500 on dress. Kayla wouldn't wear for him. Heard Kayla paid in installments. Extra part-time job. Ouch. Living. Still together. Tiny apartment. Small commitment ceremony. Never happened. Starting on financial emotional debris isn't fairy tale. Socially. Awkward. Old mutual friends sided with me or kept distance. Kayla complained I poisoned everyone. Nah, honey, your actions. Randy. Halo slipped. Less supportive rock. More guy complaining about his stress. Shocking. Ran into Judith Albright at supermarket. Saw me, pale, darted down another aisle. Petty satisfaction. Me? New apartment, different part of town, clean break, money lost, made peace with it. An expensive lesson, but learned. Focusing on work, gym, friends. Dating? Not yet. Not rushed. Open to it. Experience didn't make me bitter, more discerning, aware of my worth. No dramatic confrontation. Entitled people rarely have epiphanies. Find new people to blame. Kayla telling people I was emotionally unavailable why she sought comfort elsewhere. Revisionist history doesn't sting. Noise. Best revenge, building better life without them, letting their choices create own consequences. They dug hole. My action, stop providing ladder/safety net paid by me. Still have itemized list sent to Kayla, look at it sometimes, not anger, reminder. Stood up for myself calmly, rationally, my artifact, testament to not being doormat. Life goes on, quieter, good way, wouldn't trade it. Thanks for listening, helped. My fiancé said, I need a no-contact break to find myself. I replied, take all the time you need. Then I shipped her belongings to her parents' house. Her panicked, I'm ready to come home text came the next day. I, 31 male, am, or I guess was, engaged to Lauren, 29. We've been together for 6 years, living together for 4 in the apartment I bought before I met her. Our wedding was scheduled for 5 months from now. I genuinely believed we were happy. Last Wednesday, she sat me down on our sofa, the one we spent a whole weekend picking out, debating the merits of velvet versus woven fabric. She had a look on her face I'd never seen before, not anger, not sadness, but a kind of detached seriousness. Kyle, she began, her gaze fixed on a spot on the wall just over my shoulder. I need to be honest about my journey right now. My stomach tightened. The word journey used outside the context of travel is never a good sign. What kind of journey, Lauren? I feel a bit lost, she said, her voice a carefully modulated instrument of sincerity. I love you, of course, but in building our life together, I think I've lost touch with who Lauren is separate from us. I need space, a real, no-contact break to find myself. I just stared, my mind buffering. It felt like she was reading from a bad self-help book. A no-contact break? What does that mean? Are you going to stay with Kelly for a few days? She shook her head, a flicker of impatience in her eyes. No, Kyle, I need a real break. From us, from this apartment, from our routines. I need to be completely on my own. No texts, no calls. It's the only way I can figure out my own path. I've been on the internet long enough. I know the script. I need to find myself is often shorthand for, I've already found someone else and want to give it a test run without consequences. My first impulse was a hot, blinding flash of anger. I wanted to yell, to demand the truth, to ask her if the last 6 years were a complete joke to her. But my throat closed up. I couldn't speak. I saw the path ahead, the fighting, the pleading, the slow, agonizing death of our relationship over weeks or months. And in that moment of helpless silence, a different thought took root, a cold, quiet, and deeply practical one. She was asking for an ending. She was just dressing it up in therapy speak to absolve herself of guilt. I took a slow, ragged breath. When I finally spoke, my voice was unnervingly calm. Okay. She blinked, clearly thrown. Okay? Yes, okay. Your journey is important. You should take all the time you need. I understand. The relief that washed over her face was sickening. She was expecting a scene, a fight. I gave her an easy exit. Oh, Kyle? Thank you. I knew you were mature enough to understand. I'll just pack an overnight bag. No, I said, my voice still quiet, but with a new edge to it. If you need a clean slate, you need a clean slate. No half measures, no safety nets. I stood up, the motion feeling strangely distant, like I was watching someone else. Take all the time you need, Lauren. I'll take care of everything here. She left an hour later with a small duffel bag, giving me a quick, dry kiss on the cheek. She said this would make us stronger in the end. I just nodded, the lie hanging in the air between us. The door clicked shut, and the silence of the apartment crashed down on me. I didn't move for an hour. I just sat there, on my half of the sofa, staring at the indentation she'd left. The anger I'd suppressed earlier came back, followed by a wave of grief so profound it felt like I was drowning. This was it. It was really over. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, fueled by coffee and a hollowed-out feeling in my chest, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't live in a museum of our relationship, waiting for her to maybe, possibly, decide I was what she wanted. Her request for a break was the end. My acceptance was the funeral. I started packing. It wasn't a cold, robotic process. It was brutal. Every object I touched was a memory. The ugly ceramic mug I bought her on our first trip, her collection of yoga mats, the ridiculously expensive skincare regimen that took up the entire bathroom counter. I packed it all, my grief slowly hardening into a grim resolve. This was a necessary amputation. By late afternoon, my living room was filled with boxes. I called a professional moving service, not a rush job, just a regular one. They scheduled a pickup for the next morning. While I waited, I started the digital purge. Canceled her name from the utility accounts she was supposed to be managing. I went to our wedding venue's website. The $2,500 deposit was non-refundable. I stared at the number, a concrete value for our failed future. It hurt. With a deep breath, I filled out the cancellation request and sent it into the ether. The next day, after the movers had taken all 17 boxes away, addressed to her parents' house 3 states over, I stood in the echoing space of my own home. I felt empty. Not triumphant, just exhausted. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was Lauren. The text, "I've had some time to think. It was a mistake. I'm ready to come home now. I miss you." I waited for the feeling of relief. It didn't come. Instead, I just felt tired. I texted back. "I don't think that's a good idea. Your belongings are on their way to your parents' house. They should be there by the end of the week. I hope you found what you were looking for." Her call came 3 seconds later. I let it go to voicemail. The barrage had begun. Update 1. It's been a long week. Thank you for the messages of support. It's strange how validating it is to have strangers confirm you're not insane. My phone has been a war zone. After her initial 27 missed calls, Lauren's texts became a masterclass in emotional whiplash. "Lauren, what do you mean you shipped my stuff? Kyle, call me. This is not funny. You sent my things to my parents? Are you serious? You can't do that." It was a break, Kyle. A break. To work on myself for us. I made a mistake. I was scared and I messed up. Please, I love you. Let's just talk about this. I'll do anything. Then came the text from her best friend, Kelly. Not yelling, but something far more insidious. "Hey Kyle, Lauren is a complete wreck. I think you really overreacted. You know she loves you. She was just confused. You need to be the bigger person and let her come home. Me. She wanted a no-contact break. I'm giving it to her. Don't be cruel. She didn't mean it like that, and you know it. She deserves some grace. Don't throw away 6 years because you're angry." The gaslighting was impressive. The real trouble started on Tuesday. I received an email from Martha, the coordinator at our wedding venue. It was not the simple confirmation I was expecting. "Dear Kyle, I am writing regarding your cancellation request for event TAC redacted. I must inform you that we received a call from Miss Lauren yesterday. She stated that your cancellation request was sent in error during a period of personal distress, and that she, as the co-signer on the contract, does not consent to the cancellation. Furthermore, she has requested that if the event date is to be released, the $2,500 deposit be held as a credit in her name for a future booking. As there is a dispute between the contracting parties, we cannot proceed with the cancellation or issue any refunds credits until we receive a notarized joint statement or a legal directive. The funds are currently frozen." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a clumsy smash and grab. This was smarter. She wasn't trying to steal the money outright. She was trying to trap it in bureaucratic limbo. She knew I was conflict-averse and was betting I'd rather let her have the money than deal with the hassle. It was a calculated move. I called Martha, who was polite but firm. She explained that her hands were tied. Both our names were on the initial contract, even though I paid everything. She couldn't act on my word alone when her co-signer was actively disputing it. The dream of a clean break vanished. This was going to get messy. To make matters worse, I got a call from Lauren's mother, Judith. I was expecting her to be angry, but her voice was just tense. "Kyle, Walter and I are here. We just spoke to Lauren. She said you threw her out without any warning. What on earth is going on?" She wasn't yelling, but the defensive tone was clear. She was protecting her daughter. This wasn't going to be an easy conversation. Update 2. Okay, things have escalated. It feels like I'm in a low-budget legal drama. That call with Lauren's parents was draining. I didn't meet Judith's defensiveness with anger. I just calmly and sadly laid out the facts. I told her exactly what Lauren said, her "I need to find myself" speech. Then I told them about her call to the wedding venue, trying to lock up the $2,500 deposit. There was a long silence on the phone. Then I heard her father, Walter, sigh heavily in the background. "Judith," he said, "ask him if this has anything to do with a man named Zachary." My heart hammered in my chest. "Who's Zachary?" I asked, playing dumb. Judith's voice was strained when she came back on. "Kyle, we're sorry. We didn't know the extent of it. She has a history of making impulsive decisions. We just hoped she had grown out of it." It wasn't the immediate total support from the original story. It was the reluctant, weary concession of parents who have seen this show before. They didn't offer to fix it. They just sounded defeated. A week later, I received a thick envelope in the mail. No certified letter, just a regular one. Inside was a typed letter from Lauren and a stack of printed-out receipts. She had upped her game. There was no talk of emotional labor. It was a detailed 4-page document demanding reimbursement for her share of our cohabitated life. She included copies of receipts for a bookshelf, a desk chair, various kitchen gadgets, and a bill for a dental procedure from 2 years ago. She claimed she had covered numerous household expenses in cash and was demanding repayment. Her total demand was a shockingly specific $9,475. It was a work of fiction, but a well-documented one. She was building a case, hoping to bury me in paperwork. The dirty tricks continued. The photographer called me not to ask for money, but to give me a heads up. Lauren had called him, told him the wedding was off, and asked if he could write a statement of loss for her, saying she had paid the $1,000 deposit in full, so she could claim it on an insurance policy she never had. He was a nice guy and thought it smelled fishy, so he wanted to let me know. She wasn't just lying to get money, she was trying to get others to lie for her. This was the final straw. My grief had long since evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. She wanted to play games with paper? Fine. I live and breathe spreadsheets for a living. The counter-offensive. I didn't just make one spreadsheet. I made a whole damn PowerPoint presentation. Slide 1, Executive Summary. A brief, polite rejection of her demand. Slide 2, Analysis of Lauren's claims. I went through her receipts one by one. The bookshelf, I cross-referenced my credit card statement from that month, showing the charge to my account. The desk chair, I found the email order confirmation in my name. The dental procedure, I attached a copy of the insurance statement showing my policy had covered 80% of it. Slide 3, Kyle's documented losses. This was my version of her demand. The $2,500 venue deposit, frozen but my loss. The $1,000 photographer fee, gone. The cost of shipping her life across 3 states, $785. The final utility bill she'd left me with, $180. My total documented losses directly due to her actions, $4,465. Slide 4, The path forward. I offered 2 options. Option A, she signs a notarized statement agreeing to the cancellation of the wedding venue contract and releases any claim to the deposit. In return, I will absorb my $4,465 loss, and we walk away, never speaking again. Option B. She refuses, and I use the exact documentation I was presenting to file against her in small claims court to recover my losses. I converted the presentation to a PDF. I titled it Financial Reconciliation. I wrote a very short, polite email, attached the PDF, and sent it to Lauren. And once again, I CC'd Walter and Judith. Not out of malice, but because they were now entangled in this mess, whether they liked it or not. I didn't get a response for 4 days. The silence was unnerving. Final update. It's over. I think it's finally truly over. The ending wasn't a sudden explosion, but a slow, messy fizzle. I never heard from Zachary. I never got a direct reply from Lauren to my email. The information trickled in from the one mutual friend, Harold, that I still talk to. He heard the story from a very gossipy, very remorseful Kelly, who was trying to get back in the social group's good graces. Apparently, my financial reconciliation PDF caused a meltdown of epic proportions. Her parents, faced with undeniable documented proof of her lies, finally put their foot down. The call wasn't a single confrontation, but a week-long war. They presented her with the facts. She tried to deny them, but the receipts and statements were irrefutable. They cut her off. Not just her credit card, but the whole safety net. Zachary, the lifestyle entrepreneur, did not react with a poetic justice speech. His reaction was far more common and pathetic. Once he realized Lauren's family support was gone and she came with significant debt, which her parents informed her she now had to handle, he simply faded away. The texts became less frequent. He was suddenly always busy in meetings. About 2 weeks after she was financially cut off, she came home to their rented studio to find his stuff gone and a note on the counter that said, "Sorry, the energy here isn't right for me anymore." He blocked her on everything. No drama, just a quiet, cowardly exit. Lauren is now living with her parents. Not just in the garage, but in her old teenage bedroom. It's not a punishment. It's a grim necessity. According to Harold, she's not humbled or remorseful. She's bitter. She's spinning a new narrative to a fresh audience of old high school friends. In this version, she was the victim of a controlling, emotionally cold fiancé, me, who brutally threw her out, and then she was taken advantage of by a con artist, Zachary. Some people are buying it. I've had to block a couple of her distant relatives on social media who sent me angry messages. A week after I sent my email, I received a letter from a notary. It was the signed agreement to release the venue deposit. She took option A. She knew she would lose in court, so I won, but it doesn't feel like a clean victory. I lost a woman I loved for 6 years. I'm out over $4,000. I have trust issues that are going to take a long time to unpack. The apartment doesn't feel empty anymore, it just feels quiet. I've started redecorating, but it's a slow process. Some days I feel free and light. Other days I feel an old phantom limb of bitterness and regret. It wasn't a neat story with a perfect bow at the end. It was a messy, painful, and expensive lesson. Sometimes, when people show you who they are, you have to be willing to pack it all in a box and ship it away, even if it costs you a piece of yourself. Thanks for following along. It's time for me to log off and start a new chapter.